Very much, Professor Abraham, for that very impartial presentation of the subject. But before that, I must thank Dr. Dhanuraj, who is, I don't know why he is sitting there, but he is the brain behind this whole exercise, and I'm grateful to him for asking me to come. And of course, all the other partners in crime, like Dr. Prashant, Dr. Ramendra Bhagwanathan, and Dr. Martin Bradley is not here. Alright, so I'm glad to see that we have brought together a very brilliant team. I had not expected it. I thought I was the only speaker, and in that comfort I came. But now I find that I'll have to fight a lot of battles today. Since 29th of January 2016, I've become a great believer in Jesus Christ. Not that I was unaware of His greatness before, but one particular sentence in the Bible has been coming back to me again and again and again. That is, turn your other cheek. So that's what I literally did. I turned the other cheek on that particular issue. But then I discovered that I've been turning the other cheek for the last 4.5 years. My entire experience as Vice Chairman of the Higher Education Council has been an adventure where things were not understood properly or people refused to understand properly. The whole approach that I tried to bring into the higher education fold. And this has been the most unfortunate part of what is happening in the higher education sector. Because people bring to the discussion very many prejudices and very many preconceived notions and not open up to discussion. So that's why I was very happy to see opening up of higher education. But I didn't know the second part. Only when he said education sector in Kerala, 2 private universities and foreign universities. I don't think we need to go there. The subject should be opening up higher education, full stop. And that would be more appropriate, because that is what we need. What we need is a liberal education. This is my basic point. We cannot confine ourselves to our concepts and ideas on higher education. We cannot go back to the Gurukula Vidyabhyasam. Not possible. Because we are now today in the 21st century. The world is changing dramatically. And India is changing dramatically. India's role in the world is changing dramatically. In the next 10 years, India will be one of the 6 centers of the globe. It will be a multipolar society and world in which India will be at least one of the 6. We are going to have 96 million young people under the age of 35. So we are talking about a situation which is dramatically different from what we have experienced in the past. And we have not moved an inch from the presumptions of the 20th century. So my plea to you is not to jump into ideological confrontation. We have to sit together and decide how we are going to face these challenges. 40% of our students who are in the colleges today will go abroad. Definitely they will go out of Kerala and they will go abroad. And the jobs they are going to do in the next 10 or 15 years are jobs which have not been invented as yet today. These are very serious issues. And so, if we think that we have done well and we need to continue and we should not allow this kind of intellectual or educational colonialism, etc., then we are approaching this from a perspective which will not help us. So, we cannot change this. It was Jyoti Basu who said, I cannot stop globalization. And he went on to say, even if I want, I won't. Even if I want to stop, I cannot stop globalization. And I don't want to stop globalization because it is the world law of the world. And India has joined up with the rest of the world in signing an agreement under WTO, saying that education is a service which must be shared. So where are we doing? What are we doing in all this? If you are having a WTO agreement where you say education is a service which must be shared like trade, we have accepted that. And then to say that anything external is inimical or anything that we don't know should not be tried is really the problem. Unfortunately, I have been branded now as a champion of private universities and foreign universities. It is absolutely false. I personally feel that private universities must be allowed in Kerala, and that we have said it openly. We have written a report in which we have given the conditions under which private universities should be allowed in Kerala. And the regulations that we have recommended are much stronger than those of the other states. So why? The most important logic is, unless you have a bigger outlay, private outlay in education, we cannot move forward. Our allocation now to higher education is less than 3%. And the United Nations demand is only 9%. And Dr. Panikkar himself has recommended it should be 30%. Where is 30%? Where is 9%? Where is 3%? Where are we going to get this money? It has to be private sector. Dr. Narayana Murthy studied the whole issue about 2 years ago. And he said unless 50% of the outlay for our education comes from the private sector, we cannot move forward. He suggested that 100,000 students, 10,000 students every year should be sent abroad for education at government expense to bring about this transformation. So against this background, it is true that we have recommended introduction of private universities in Kerala, which is already there in every other state in India. So my position is yes, we want private universities. Foreign universities, I have never said we must have foreign universities. Never. Because it is not my responsibility. It is the responsibility of the central government. There is a bill in Parliament to bring in foreign universities. 5 years it has been in Parliament. Anyone who reads that bill will know that is one of the most rigid kind of, it is not permission for foreign universities, it is a regulation of foreign universities. And number one, the first criterion for anyone to India with a university is no profit repatriation. When somebody asks them why should they come? On the basis of no profit repatriation, at least 6 global first-class universities have purchased land in Delhi already. So how do you explain that? Why do they want to come? They asked me bluntly, N.G. Ravakrishnan asked me the other day, why should they come? I said they would come because they want to be involved in the intellectual activity of India. They don't want any profit. Already Columbia University has a research center in Mumbai. How many of us know that? How much money are they making? They are not making any money. They are giving their results to Indian organizations. Why? Because they want to be part of this intellectual interaction. Don't think that they are all coming for money. It is not true. So, and even if they want to come for money, they cannot make money because that is one of the conditions of the bill which is in our parliament. And of course that bill has not passed. So that is not an issue. We did not discuss or we did not recommend foreign universities. But what we recommended was, if anybody had bothered to read the theme paper which we circulated at least 2 or 3 weeks before the conference, this controversy would not have arisen. We said there are 10 activities that the UGC, the AICTE, the government have authorized for cooperation with foreign universities. We have listed it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many of them are we using? One Vice Chancellor wrote to me very proudly, we have nothing to do with foreign universities. He was very happy. That is the state of affairs. Somebody should be ashamed that in the 21st century you have no contact with any universities in the world. It cannot happen, it should not happen. And what are we afraid of? This is what hurts me most. Look at Kerala. I think Professor Abraham referred to that. We have allowed everything to come into India through Kerala. Christianity, Islam, languages, the British rule, Portuguese, the French. So we were the ones who had opened out our doors for all these civilizations. languages, cultures. So if our predecessors were scared about that, they would not have allowed that to happen. What did Pandit Mahatma Gandhi say? Open your doors and windows, let all air breeze through my country, my state, my home. But make sure that my home is not blown away by that. So as long as you have that confidence, why should you be afraid of foreign universities or foreign cultures or foreign studies? That is my point. So we did not suggest introduction of foreign universities, we suggested cooperation with foreign universities. Internationalization of education does not mean arrival of foreign universities here. But even to cooperate with foreign universities, you should know what they are. So the opportunity that we provided at Kovalam was to get 30 educators from all around the world to come, and at least our Vice Chancellor can see what they look like. Right? So that was an experience. Talk to them. What would you think? What is it that we can do? But the unfortunate part is that we have set back the process by the events in Kovalam. We have set back the process at least by 5 years. Because these 13 gentlemen and ladies are not going to come back to Kerala. That's for certain. If this is the kind of scene, I try to explain to them this is democracy, this is militant democracy. But they said this is not democracy, because democracy ends when your nose begins. Right? So you can go close to a man's nose, that is democracy. But once you hit his nose, it is not democracy anymore. And that is the mistake we have made. So I'll not go into a great lot of detail. The only point I would like you to understand and stress is that we are in a century where we need to rethink our educational system. The way we teach, the way we learn, the way we examine are all outdated. Nobody writes essays in examinations in the better universities. They don't. What is the use of your writing an essay on Archimedes' principle and then you become a physicist? You should know what the Archimedes' principle is to put into practice. That's what you have to do. But we are still writing essays on it. This is not the system. And that is not going to help. What is our research? Gathering of information. Plagiarizing not to be included. But gathering of information available in the world, we put together and we get a doctorate degree. But this is not research. You have to create knowledge. We often regret, from the president down to everybody says, oh, we are not on the list of world-class universities. I am not upset about it. Because the criteria used for world-class universities, we are never going to go anywhere near it in this century. You know the reasons. Number one question, how many Nobel Prizes in your university? After C.V. Raman, have we seen any Nobel Prizes? How many patents do we have? How many foreign faculty do you have? How many students are going abroad do you have? How many foreign students are in your university? These are the questions I ask to decide how a university is. The question is not how you teach, how many of them get jobs. Nobody asks you that question. We went into this, how this is decided. Because we challenge them. We challenge the time people and the Shanghai list people to tell us why we are not world class. First of all, they don't ask everybody to come. You know that. They don't know St. Teresa's College exists. Why? Because they will tell 10 most distinguished educationists all over the world to give them a list of the best universities that they think is right and give them the... So you don't have an opportunity to go and compete. It is done unilaterally by this group of people who may not even know there is a Kerala University in this world. So now we are doing various things. They of course wanted to satisfy us saying we will have a BRICS ranking. Okay, we said very good. Then India got very good chance. But then what happened? The first 15 to 20 are Chinese, then the Indians, then the Russians, then the Brazilians, like that. And now we are saying, oh, we are also on world-class universities. Because don't believe that our education is bad. I am not saying that. Our education is good. Kerala graduates are doing well in civil service examination. Who comes out first in the last 5, 6, 7 years? And who are they competing with? 8 lakhs of boys and girls educated, including at Oxford and Cambridge, take the civil service examination. And a young girl from Nayatengara who did a university, engineering college in Trivandrum becomes the first rank holder. So there must be something right about our education system. Or you go to world-class universities, go to Columbia. You cannot throw a stone without hitting a Malayali. Nobel Prize candidates. Soma Sundaran in university, he studied in in some village school and studied in some college in Changanasheri, and he would soon win a Nobel Prize. So what is wrong with us? So what is wrong is that we are not updating it. We are not using the talent of our students and our teachers. And this is the problem. So we have to find a solution. And that solution has to be found together by all of us and then decide what is good for us. So I'm not saying let us imitate Oxford or Cambridge. We cannot. We do not need to. We do not need to be even in the list of world-class universities. But as long as you are able to equip this 96 million young people to do the job that they were be expected to do in the 21st century outside India, then your education is fine. So we should do everything possible to accomplish that. And I'll stop there. If you have any brickbats, I'm willing to face, but this is my thing. But I just must clarify one or two things which are actually wrong. Like for example, it was said that the previous council brought the best people to discuss issues. Let me just read out the names of the people who headed our committees. Professor Jnanam, he was the chairman of NAC. Professor N.R. Madhav Menon on autonomy. On private universities, it was Professor Siryak Thomas. Then on women's issues, it was Meenakshi Gopinath. On public policy, it was Professor Kareem. And about University Regulations Acts, it was Dr. Professor Chandrasekhar Pillai. So do you think any of these people are any less professional than the names that you mentioned? So you are factually giving a misleading picture, number one. Because you didn't mention these names, you only mentioned 2 names, right? Now we have
deliberations. No,
I'm coming to that. And these committees held sittings in every university. If you did not go there, what can you do? Read those reports. How many vice chancellors presented views before them? How many professors? How many students? So to say that there was no discussion, there are no eminent people in our reporting is wrong. That's all that I'm saying. Then on CBSE system, did we destroy it? When I joined as the vice chairman, the expectation was that I will reverse it. Because LDF brought it, so UDF must reverse. And I was the first chap who said I am not doing it because semester system has been accepted all around the globe. Why should Kerala not have semester system? When I took my son to American University, the first thing I asked, which semester is he in? So he asked, what is semester? I had not heard of it. That was the pathetic state of affairs here. When we appointed Professor Hridaya Kumari as the chairman of the semester committee, her first instinct was to go back to the annual system. Because she said, this is not going to work unless the teacher-student ratio changes. It is 1:17 in Harvard, it is in Kerala 1:170. You cannot have a semester system. She argued very strongly with us. But then she was convinced when she talked to a large section of students, teachers, etc. and felt that there must be change. And what are the changes we brought about? If you care to read Professor Panikkar introduction to the semester system paper, you will know what we did. He said, following problems will arise. You say no incubation time was given to them, we removed it. This is absolutely wrong. Professor Panikkar has written in his preface that these are the problems will arise in the next 3 years. Please resolve. And we resolved exactly those and designed 11 recommendations approved by the government and sent to the universities. Half of them implemented it half-heartedly. Others did not implement them at all. So who are you blaming for? We did not demolish the semester system. Because I personally, but what semester system are we offering? What credit, what choices are you offering to our students? It has to be same physics, chemistry, biology and physics, chemistry, mathematics. What choice are you giving them? You say informatics will be taught. Who was teaching informatics? English literature professors. What do they know about informatics? So we said remove it. Remove it from there and put it somewhere else where you have teachers who can produce it. So we need all. So there is no single format or formula for any of these, but a combination of all these. To say that public investment is the only thing will save us, I think we are on the wrong path. Saying that our education is good. Kerala graduates are doing well in civil service examination. Who comes out first in the last 5, 6, 7 years? And who are they competing with? 8 lakhs of boys and girls educated, including at Oxford and Cambridge, take the civil service examination. And a young girl from Nayakangara who did a university, engineering college in Trivandrum becomes the first rank holder. So there must be something right about our education system. Or you go to world-class universities, go to Columbia. You cannot throw a stone without hitting a Malayali. Nobel Prize candidates. Soma Sundaran in university, he studied in in some village school and studied in some college in Changanasheri, and he would soon win a Nobel Prize. So what is wrong with us? So what is wrong is that we are not updating it. We are not using the talent of our students and our teachers. And this is the problem. So we have to find a solution. And that solution has to be found together by all of us and then decide what is good for us. So I'm not saying let us imitate Oxford or Cambridge. We cannot. We do not need to. We do not need to be even in the list of world-class universities. But as long as you are able to equip this 96 million young people to do the job that they were expected to do in the 21st century outside India, then your education is fine. So we should do everything possible to accomplish that. And I'll stop there. If you have any brickbats, I'm willing to face, but this is my thesis. Thank you very much.